What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Neanderthal Radio. As always, this podcast is available on iTunes Podcasts under Neanderthal Radio and in YouTube also under Neanderthal Radio. So I've been getting a lot of questions on YouTube lately regarding intermittent fasting, or IF, as you fancy fucks like to call it. It seems like right now that's the craze within the ketogenic diet. Everybody wants to know how to do it, what it means, what it's really about. I will give you a little bit of my personal beliefs on intermittent fasting on a ketogenic diet. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I've been doing a ketogenic diet for 11 months, and as of today, I've lost just short of 110 pounds. So I have fasted. Fasting has been a part of my ketogenic diet since maybe my third month following a ketogenic diet. But like I said, I have some experience with it, and I have some beliefs on it. But I want to save that to the end. I just want to cover the science first. That way, anybody that doesn't care to hear my opinion can just, cut off the podcast or the video at that point. So jumping right into it, there's two types of fast really that you should understand. And this is specifically for a ketogenic diet. That's another thing. Most fasting and most studies done on fasting, they're on traditional diets or standard American diet, whatever you want to call it. Or it's not even just American, because fasting is being done in cultures all over the world for religious reasons. Muslims fast during Ramadan. Apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. But most fasting studies are done on a traditional, either carb-rich or carb-inclusive diet. Fasting on a ketogenic diet is a little bit different. So not everything is apples to apples, so to say. So on a ketogenic diet, there's typically two types of fast that people like to do. It's I guess you call it traditional fast, or a fast where you only consume water, black tea, and coffee. Some argue that caffeine can affect it. There's no studies at all that show black tea or black coffee can have any effect on a fast, regardless of what type of fast you're doing. So generally, black tea, black coffee, and water are your safe drinks. There is a thing called a dry fast, which I don't like to talk about, because I think this is where the danger of fasting comes into play. Is when somebody's doing a dry fast, they're not consuming anything. No water, no food, no nothing, from upwards of 24, 48, 72, whatever. Keep going with your multiples. That, in my opinion, is incredibly dangerous. Whenever you're going that long without water, you're clearly going to dehydrate yourself. And dehydration can cause a whole array of health problems, even health problems in normally healthy people. It can cause problems with your heart, with your liver, your kidneys, all sorts of stuff starts stacked up in the body. The body needs water. So dry fast, I don't advise it. I think it's very, very stupid. So please drink water, stay hydrated. That's with both types of these diets that we're going to talk about. I mean, these fasts. So you have to stay hydrated. So you have your traditional fast where all you're drinking is tea and black coffee and water and nothing else. No calories for a certain period of time. And we're going to get into that after we go over the fast. The second type of fast that people do on a ketogenic diet is what's called a fat fast. And people will argue this. They don't like it. They say it's not a real fast. But basically, it's where you just consume all of your calories from fat. Like 100% of your calories have to come from fat. And usually this is only obtained through people who do blended coffees with butter and MCT oil. That's just pure fat right there. And then they'll snack on cheese and other things of that nature. You're not eating any carbs whatsoever, not even good carbs, which are your vegetables that have fiber. You're not eating anything, no protein, no nothing. And before people freak out on saying, well, you have to eat protein. Either way, on a fast, you're not eating protein, okay, people? So take it down a notch. So those are your two types of fasts that people do on a ketogenic diet, the fat fast and the traditional fast. Both have their merits, I guess you could say, and both have a specific reason why people do them. And I'm not going to get into whether or not one's better than the other. I'm just going to cover both of them. So the point of fasting on a ketogenic diet. The point of fasting on a ketogenic diet is generally the same as fasting on a traditional diet. A lot of people do it. They're motivated to do it to burn their fat stores. So this is where things get a little different, though, is on a traditional diet, you fast because you want to attack your fat stores. The problem is on a traditional diet, we know your body doesn't want to burn fat. It wants to burn glucose. It doesn't want to burn ketones. So on a traditional diet, when your body is being withheld the energy it needs, a lot of times it targets the muscle first. Well, first it'll target the glucose stores. And once it depletes the glucose stores, then it's going to target the muscle. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I believe the term is called like gluconeogenesis. And that's the process in which the body will break down the muscle fibers and create glucose. So on a traditional diet, when you're fasting, you may lose weight, but they've even said on traditional diets, the weight loss is not real. It always comes back, and oftentimes it comes back even higher. And that's because you didn't actually target fat. You targeted muscle, which long run for fat loss, we know is a very, very bad thing. You don't want to lose muscle mass. Muscle mass in the long run is going to help you burn more fat just sitting around playing Xbox and shit. So, but this is where it gets a little different, is because on a ketogenic diet, we are running on ketones. So when you don't have a source of energy coming in, food, your body's going to attack your fat cells to break them down and create ketones for the body to run on. So that's where fasting on a ketogenic diet is more beneficial, so to speak. And that's why people on a ketogenic diet get excited about fasting. So I'm going to get a little more into that later as well. But that's the gist of it. That's what the fasting is. That's the point of fasting. It is worth noting this. When you fast, your goal is not to restrict calories. So some people say, like, I'm going to do a fast tomorrow. I'm going to eat only 900 calories. That's really not the point of a fast. You're missing the point a little bit. Is when you fast, you fast within windows. And those windows are going to determine when you can eat. I'm going to go deeper into that in a minute as well for those that want to know the different type of windows. But when you're fasting in a window, the whole theory is your body can only eat X amount of calories in one sitting, so to speak. And so in doing so, you naturally eat less calories. But going into a fast, your goal is still to hit your daily macros. You're not supposed to be, destroying your macros. And if you eat less calories total, that's fine. But the goal is not supposed to be to eat only 700 or 600. That's not what fasting on a ketogenic diet is supposed to be. The whole theory is you only allow yourself to eat whatever when you're gonna allow yourself to eat, and naturally you're gonna eat less, but you're still aiming for your same macros. So the types of fast, the types of windows that people generally do. You have the simplest and probably the most advised for beginners is to just skip a meal. Skip lunch. Generally, I would recommend lunch, but if you really love lunch, skip breakfast. Breakfast is easy for some people. Skip breakfast. I probably wouldn't advise skipping dinner just because, you're going to be really fucking hungry in the morning. That may get you a little bit. You may not enjoy that feeling. It tends to be much easier for people to skip breakfast, especially if you're busy, you're heading off to work. Much easier to skip breakfast or lunch, especially you're in the office, and lunch is pretty easy to skip. And that's it. I mean, if you're going to skip lunch, for instance, you can have your bulletproof coffee or whatever you do, your eggs and bacon, and then you just don't eat lunch. And same thing for breakfast. And then there's what's called eating windows. So eating windows are kind of like, I guess you can say, skipping a meal, only it's more of a time frame in which you're not going to eat. So I like to think of skipping of eating windows as eliminating snacking, because some people will follow like an 18-6 window, which means for 18 hours out of the day, you're not going to eat. And for 6 hours, you're going to allow yourself to eat. So if you could pretty much fit 2 or 3 meals into 6 hours. If you time it right, you eat first thing in the morning, you eat a lunch, you eat an early dinner, whatever. You have your 6-hour window, but it's the 18 hours that you're not allowed to consume any food. So it's more, like I said, eliminating snacking. People push it a little further, and usually you do like a 21-3, which is a 21-hour window of eating, and a 21-hour window of fasting, and a 3-hour eating of window. And people will generally do that right before they go after what they call the cleanse, which is like a 24 to 48-hour fast. I really wouldn't recommend that again, this is getting a little into my opinion, but I really wouldn't recommend that for beginners. I think the 24 to 48 hour fast should be saved for people who are fully keto adapt. Just my opinion. It becomes easier to go longer amounts of time, which I've done, but it's not fun. It's still not fun even when you're keto adapt. So, and also this whole thing about cleanse, people, please understand, if you want to do a fast because you want to do a fast, you want to tell your friends about it or whatever your motivation, you want to do a fast. Cool. Don't try to pretend like it's a cleanse, because the body is efficient, man. Like, the body doesn't really need you to help out. It just needs you to eat what you evolved to eat. Eat the food you were evolved to eat, and your body is good. This is millions of years of evolution here, and trust me, it doesn't need your help to cleanse itself. It's fully capable of cleansing the brain, of cleansing all the organs, and it does so on a daily basis. When you sleep, your body cleanses the fluid in your brain, and when you urinate, your body's cleansing itself. So there's no studies that show fasting on any sort of diet increases a cleanse of the body. So that's not a valid reason to do this. There are a few valid reasons though, and again, a lot of these were studied on carbohydrate-rich diets versus fasting. So a lot of these were done with people who ate a 60% carb diet and then they fasted. So it may not be 100% the same results for a ketogenic diet. I'm just mentioning that just to be 100% forthright, because we don't really know. There's not a lot of studies for ketogenic fasting in some of these things, so we can only get the material that we can find, and it's generally on regular diet versus fasting. So, but I have included some that I feel is beneficial for a ketogenic diet, and probably what I feel is the biggest benefit is the mental clarity aspect. So again, there's not a lot of studies, but what we know about a ketogenic diet and what we know about mental clarity is that the high levels of fat and create ketones, and we know that ketones are a cleaner source of energy. So with the mental clarity aspect, the whole theory behind that, you get pushed into a deeper state of ketosis. Because you aren't consuming nutrients, your body is going to attack your fat, and you have a very, very high number of calories stored away. Like, I've heard this number anywhere from 60,000 calories upwards. They say even incredibly fit individuals with very little body fat have 10,000 calories, a minimum 10,000 calories of fat, of ketones that their body can produce when on a ketogenic diet. So that's the point of fasting, for the mental clarity aspect, and which I guess can be a cleanse, but not really. It's just more of you're trying to get pushed in a mental state where everything is heightened, sharpened. A lot of religious cultures that fast, they fast for this specific reason, to get an enlightenment, to get pushed to a deeper state. It could be that when they're fasting and they're running out of glucose and they're depleting their glucose stores, eventually their body does switch over to ketosis. So I think what some of these religious people were experiencing, and not to undermine anybody's religion here, but what I think a lot of these religious people that were fasting 6 days, I think what they were experiencing was ketosis, and they were experiencing the mental clarity. So on a ketogenic diet already, you kind of have a leg up on that. So when you start fasting, your body can just get pushed into a deeper state of that. How deep of a state and how noticeable that is, it's dependent on the individual. And also, I believe there's a thing called placebos, and you feel like you're being pushed in a deeper state, and the mind is powerful, man. Like, if you believe it, it can manifest itself to a certain extent. So you may actually experience a much deeper state of mental clarity because you believe you are, and it's not necessarily that anything is really happening at that deeper of a level. But hey, maybe, man. Who am I? Fitness, though. When we talk about fitness, that is something that has had numerous studies done with it, and I'll keep it short because maybe not everybody is interested in working out and in fitness, but fasting and working out or exercising of any type does yield noticeable results that they can actually study and say, hey, look, boom, this group who was on a carbohydrate-rich diet prior to exercising this group was fasting, and these are the difference in results. And then they would flip the groups, and they would see the results flip again. So they do know that when you fast and you're exercising, there are some noticeable changes that happen. One of the changes is output. And they use this term called VO2, I think it is, which is like your max output, your oxygen output. And they'll work people at like 70% of their max. And they can see that people, when they're fasting, they have generally about a 9% greater output. And also there is more of a retention of nutrients when you do eat. After you fasted and worked out, when they do eat, they're able to retain more of those nutrients. There's also something that happens with the type 1 fibers, where you cause more of I think it's the lipitoid or the lipid, tearing of the lipid. So you will actually get greater gains on your type 1 muscle fiber. It also does some things hormonally. It increases testosterone. It increases human growth hormones. It blocks estrogen. So again, that part is going to be more geared towards guys. Guys love to hear that things are going to increase testosterone and block estrogen and increase HGH. Women, no, you're not going to get buff like Luther Rigno. It's not like Arnold just gave you a bucket of Deca, okay? The increase is noticeable, but it's not noticeable. If you know what I'm saying, like over time, if you did this every day, you would see slightly greater gains in a year. You would not within a week gain 10 pounds of muscle. Girls are not going to fucking grow a beard. It's not that serious. And I mean, a lot of these studies too, they're done with young males, generally between the ages of 20 to 28. So when you're a 20-year-old male, the fucking wind blowing in the right direction is going to increase your HGH. So it's not something that women have to worry about. Women are not going to grow facial hair. They're not going to become super buff. Guys, unfortunately, you're not going to become super buff either. Probably the most, exciting part about fasting on a ketogenic diet or any type of diet and working out is the output. Because you have greater output, now you're going to get better gains. You're going to get better results. You're going to burn more calories if you're running. They've done studies on the Muslim, again, I apologize if I mispronounce this, Ramadan, or Muslim athletes during Ramadan. And they have found that, and I don't know a lot about the Muslim culture, to be 100% honest with you. I don't know how long Ramadan lasts, but they've found that over the period of Ramadan, that these Muslim athletes, they didn't have any negative health effects from exercising and doing their sport while in a fasted state. They didn't have accelerated muscle breakdown. They didn't have anything like that. So it's, at the very least, it's safe. And at the very best, there's some minor perks to exercising in a fasted state. Weight loss. Now, I saved this one for last. I didn't do it to be sneaky. I know it's what a lot of people are most concerned about. But here is where I'm going to have to start to inject some of my opinion, because I'm going to be 100% honest with you. With studies done, there is no link to fasting and greater weight loss. Traditionally, fasting is not done to cause weight loss. Like I said, it's done for religious reasons, it's done for spiritual reasons, it's done for cleansing reasons, whatever. Generally, fasts were not thought of as a weight loss tool. And on a ketogenic diet, it's a little different because of the type of fasting we do. It can yield some weight loss results. But I do want to again say, in all the studies that they've done, people that fast typically lose weight initially. And they have a term for it. And I'm stupid and didn't write it down, so I don't know what that term is. But they have a term for the weight that people lose on a fasted diet. They call it a specific thing because it comes back. And so they don't count it as true weight loss. They do acknowledge that it is a weight loss, the studies. It's not water loss. It's not muscle loss. It's weight loss. But it always comes back. And it baffles them a little bit. But in some participants, it comes back plus some. And so weight loss on a fasted diet is not really there scientifically. There's nothing to prove that it's effective. So with that out the way, on a ketogenic diet, it's a little bit different because, like I said before, when you're fasting on a traditional diet, you're depleting glucose, and then you're gonna, attack your muscle. There's a lot of different things going on before your body is even gonna worry about your fat cells. On a ketogenic diet, we run off of ketones. So when my body needs ketones, if they're not coming in through my mouth, my body's going to create them. It's going to create them specifically by targeting my fat cells. So that's the difference between fasting on a regular diet for weight loss and fasting on a ketogenic diet for weight loss. Because our body's go-to source of fuel is our belly fat, is our abdominal fat, is our whatever, is our fat in general. But they say it tends to target abdominal fat, especially in males. It tends to target abdominal fat. So before I get myself super confused, you are going to target your body's fat stores. And that's one of the biggest pushes by people to fast on a ketogenic diet. It's almost in our nature to think, if I can lose 5 pounds, why not lose 10 pounds a week? If I can lose 2 pounds, why not lose 6 pounds? So for a lot of people that are healthily losing weight on a ketogenic diet, I feel like they lose sight of the ketogenic diet a little bit, and they want to start fasting because they feel like it can amplify it, which is true. But you also got to think too, whenever you're fasting, especially if you're going to push into it like a 1 or 2 day fast, you don't really know what that can do to your metabolism. Studies have shown that fasting slows the metabolism. People argue that that's not related to a ketogenic diet, but we don't know that. We do know that the more weight people lose, the harder it becomes for them to lose weight. So we do know that there is a shift that happens within the body when you're losing weight that affects metabolism, that affects different things. So my ultimate theory on fasting is that it can be a useful tool, but I don't feel like it's the holy grail. I don't feel like it's a silver bullet. I don't feel like it is the most amazing thing that is so far superior to anything else you can do. I believe that the ketogenic diet is the tool. The ketogenic diet is the silver bullet. I feel like following the ketogenic diet the way you're supposed to will yield those results. I feel like when you start to get into fasting, if you're forcing it, you're kind of playing with fire a little bit, because you're not trusting in the system in itself. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. I know some people aren't going to like that, but I personally feel that the ketogenic diet is what you should be putting your faith in. And so when you start getting into these things like doing a 2 day fast, you start pushing yourself to do something that maybe you're not ready for. And I tend to hear a lot about fasting from people who just started a ketogenic diet. Most likely somebody that's been following a ketogenic diet for a year is not going to watch this video on me telling you how to fast on a ketogenic diet. So kind of a bit my intention of this video is for people that are just starting out, because anybody that's been fat and been following a ketogenic diet for a while knows fasting becomes a part of your ketogenic diet, but it's always done naturally. For me, I never wanted to fast. It didn't seem fun. I didn't like the idea of starving myself and being hungry. But about 3 months in, I started fasting, and it happened naturally. It would happen where sometimes I would make my blended coffee in the morning, and then I just wouldn't want to eat lunch. Like, my body had absolutely no desire to consume food or anything. So I simply wouldn't eat, and I would eat dinner. And then sometimes if I ate my coffee and I ate lunch, I wouldn't eat dinner. And it was just a weird thing that my body started doing about 3 months in, and I just listened to my body. So that is probably the moral of the story, is listen to your body. Especially when you're just starting off, I would not advise anybody to try to fast until they're at least a month or 2 into their ketogenic diet. No, your fucking toe won't fall off. If you try to do it, you won't die. It's not deadly. There's no lethal side effect, assuming you don't have diabetes or something, and assuming you're not doing a dry fast like an idiot. There's no negative side effect of starting it too soon, except for the fact that you may sacrifice a bit your ketogenic diet. Before you have the foundation built for your ketogenic diet, before you're fully keto adapt, things are still up in the air. Your willpower is still a little bit up in the air. You got to make it a couple months. I always advise people, even before they start fucking around with fat bombs, which I love fat bombs, and I make some bomb-ass fat bombs. But before I advise anybody getting into fat bombs or anybody getting into do even the sugar substitutes and the sugar alcohols and the whatever, man, the Atkins little candy bars that they make. I always tell people, spend at least a month, become keto adapt, and build a foundation, because that foundation is what you're going to build everything upon. And I'm a little bit concerned for some people when they start to get into fasting too soon. And some people that I've talked to, they want to fast, but they've only been following a ketogenic diet for 3 days, or they want to fast to get into a ketogenic diet. That's their plan, is because they heard these rumors that if you fast and then do ketogenic at the same time, that you can avoid keto flu. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's true or not. At certain times, that sounded like it made sense to me, but now I'm kind of against it. The theory of that is that if you're fasting, you're depleting all your glucose. So as soon as you go into a ketogenic diet, your body's automatically going to start burning ketones. That sounds good if you can make it into ketosis. A lot of times, if you're fasting like that, you're going to be hungry. You're going to eat the wrong thing. So like I said, I think it's important that people build a solid foundation first, and then you can start fasting. For me, I generally don't like to do more than 24 hours. I don't think it's fun. I don't like how I feel. The one time that I went 24 hours, I hated it. I didn't do it by choice. I was at an event. I was podcasting all day. I hadn't eaten since like 8 p.m., actually it was like 7 p.m. the night before. I went to this event. I was running late. I didn't even have time to get my coffee. And then I podcasted all day, and I was doing things at this event. I didn't get home until like 9 o'clock at night, and I ate. And the shitty thing is I ate a lot. I was very hungry. I ate till my stomach was full, and I physically didn't want to eat anymore, but my mind was still hungry. I still wanted to eat. Some weird primitive thing had happened within my body that made my body think food was scarce again. And I think you have to a little bit recognize that the human body doesn't know where we are. It doesn't know what state you live in, what country you live in. It doesn't know what year you live in. It only knows, hey, I evolved like this, and not eating food is not good. I want to make sure that if I get in a period of not eating food, which historically happened to humans a lot, that we can store fat. So when your body, it has food plentiful, and it can kind of come to terms with the fact that food is plentiful, it won't necessarily engage in like a cellular drive to retain fat. When food becomes scarce, and if you're only eating once or twice, or you're not eating at all, your body starts to think food is scarce, and it can start to slow metabolism, and it can start to do all these different things that cause the body to retain fat, because it thinks, hey, a fucking ice age is about to happen, or whatever the body thinks. I'm not a biologist, people. I'm just a guy with a beard. But that's kind of the point behind that, is like, for me, I was still hungry even though I had eaten a lot. But I think it's because my body was a little fucked up. My body didn't know what was happening. So if you're going to go for those long periods of time, and look, there's some people that can do it, just be mindful of the bigger picture, and that's that you need to stay true to the ketogenic diet. You need to stay true to your macros. You should always be hitting your macros. Like I said in the beginning, always be hitting your macros. If you're doing a 24-hour fast, unfortunately, that's not going to be possible for you on that day. Just make sure that if you're coming off of a 24-hour fast, that you're mindful of your caloric intake, because there may be a desire to overeat. You may be extra hungry, and your body may be in that weird primitive thing where it's trying to now force you to take in extra calories as much as possible, because it's afraid that there's going to be a period of shortage again. So again, people, not a doctor, not a biologist, just a dude who eats fats. So feel free to comment on the YouTube video. Let me know. I am going to put up an article. It'll probably be up at the same time this is up, so I'll put a link in YouTube. In the description, I'll put a link. I'm going to do an article on fasting that's going to have all those links for those studies, so people can go in. I kind of like to talk off my head. I have some notes here, but it's very confusing for me to try to read notes and talk, and I stumble up a bit, and I don't really like it a whole lot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that link to that article, so you can go and read the article. You can see all the studies, and that'll be a little bit more, scientific mumbo jumbo for all you that want to see the science behind it, and less of my opinion. So there you have it, people. Fasting on the ketogenic diet. I hope this helped you. Love you guys. Goodbye.